Thank you all for coming first, and welcome to the third day of the BalCCon conference. The topic of this presentation is going to be about private communication with mobile phones in the post-Snowden way, or the open source way. So please first greet the lecturer and let's start.
Okay. So my name is Sharkey. Everybody, not many people know me here, so I think I should introduce myself a little bit. I got my first PC way back then in '91, and it turned out it couldn't run anything but DOS. So that was a bummer, as I was a kid and always wanting to just play games. I was coming from Amiga. And okay, that turned out pretty well because later on I didn't have problems switching to Linux, because when I switched to Linux, most stuff you had to do was in the console. You have to type your commands. After some time I got my modem, 240 baud modem, and baud means 300 bytes per second. That was the speed way back then from a modem. During my local BBS's explorations, I found out reference to the mailing list called the cypherpunks. And cypherpunks are old mailing list, comprised mainly of cryptographers, hackers, libertarians, people who believe in privacy, in security. And that thing made such an impression to me. I was just a kid then, and I was exposed to something like ClipperChip. ClipperChip was attempt in the 90s by the NSA to install chips in mobile phones to be able to intercept traffic. They said, okay, we'll give you strong crypto, but we'll keep the keys for ourselves. And providers didn't like that, and that program went bust. AT&T, Room 641A, that was first public disclosure of government recording, emails, web browsing history, all things that was done to, let's say, find the terrorists, but that those things aren't used to track the terrorists at all, just for economic, commercial services. That's the main oath. And cypherpunks, this was a quote from 1993, and it's still as valid today. You really cannot allow corporations and governments to allow them to think of your privacy, because as it turned out, most of the corporations are Facebook, Google, Microsoft. They all give free services in return for some kind of data from you. And if you want to defend it, you cannot leave to anything, to anyone but you. And the cypherpunks were hackers. They were able to write code. And PGP is a great example. That was one of the first programs that was released as a response to the Echelon program, which was capturing all the email. And in the 90s, this is what I remember of it. In the 90s, strong encryption was considered ammunition, like a weapon, and people weren't allowed to export it. But books were allowed to export. So Phil Zimmerman, the creator of PGP, actually wrote a book, put all its source code in a book, and said, okay, you can buy it like that, you can scan it like OCR, and compile your PGP without export restrictions. And after 7 years of lawsuits by EFF, by Electronic Frontier Foundation, privacy advocates, in the year 2000, they actually managed to abolish that munitions classification and permit export. Pardon. Oh, the echelon was the system that was receiving satellite links. In the 90s, most of the internet was going over the satellite, over the oceans. So they set up listening posts. And we was thinking like, man, that's maybe like, I don't know if they're doing, that's some like kind of conspiracy theory. I wasn't sure about it. Everybody was talking about that in the 90s. And I wasn't sure. And 20 years later, there comes a guy which dumps these files. And these are files from the Snowden cache, which actually show that not only they were right about this, foreign sat, this is echelon, 12 plus 40 satellite listening stations worldwide. But much more, large cable interceptions, 20 major, all those cables that run through the oceans, they have to come out at the station, at the shore, right? And so the government, with their secret agreements, forced or asked large providers to let them run their equipment there. CNE, this is incredible, and this is all data. This is from maybe 2012. CNE is computer network exploitation, 50,000 implants. They have, by that time, 50,000 internet routers from Cisco, from all the Huawei, from all the major producers of internet ISP service grade equipment. They have found backdoors, exploits, and they are infecting those routers with their software. 50,000 of those. That's what like struck me the most. So they control every one of those routers anywhere in the world. They can reroute traffic, disable internet, filter it, block certain sites, intercept communications, inject stuff in communications just because of that. And this one, third party or liaison, 30 countries. They have countries that are cooperating with them. And when you go to this list, you can see that you have here Budapest, Zagreb, Sarajevo, Pristina, Tirana. Those are all neighboring countries for people who are not from here. And the rest of these black dots, they are blanked by the, I don't know who published this, maybe Guardian. Guardian was one of the companies, one of the news outlets that was reporting on Snowden files until they sacked Glenn Greenwald. They actually consulted with representatives of the NSA, or the UK's version, GCHQ, and okay, is it okay that we publish this? And they said, okay, but you have to black those sites. So more than half of sites are blocked. So you don't know if there's one in Belgrade, let's say. Really don't. And that is third-party liaison. That's on the country level. That's not what we're saying computer network, CNE. They're not just infecting some router and then they get ability to change something in a traffic. This liaison thing means that they have their data center, their computers, their switches, their splitters, and their listening equipment installed in those countries all around the world. You know, so it's not just like, okay, they're spying on Americans, they are US agency. No. They're talking about the entire world. So any time you use from Belgrade, from whatever, from Serbia, from whatever internet, you have to cross some of these points. So it's not like okay, it doesn't mind me. I'm not gonna get in those in their crosshairs, right? Cypherpunks, members of that list became to get involved in such projects which we still use today, mostly. So you see, it's an impressive list. During that mailing list, I was only trolling. I was only a kid back then. I didn't understand the importance of all this, but I was growing up with the notion that something is being done to the great free internet that we use, that we were using in the 90s, in the beginning, in the 2000s. And people maybe don't know how things came to be. And I'm saying these things are going from the 90s, really. This is not something new. This is not something that Snowden, this is not, which happened something after Snowden released those documents. Bruce Schneier is a cryptographer, security expert, and he has a mailing list called Cryptogram, which I was following for a number of years. And when you follow that list for a long, long time, you get to see the pattern. Every year there's another attack, there's another removal of privacy, another liberty, reducing liberties, what you can do, what is not being tracked. And this is the great example. This post is from 2006. Every mobile phone company in the world has to enable wiretapping of their devices, of their clients, at the behest of police or law enforcement or whatever agencies that operate in that country. So the central buildings, the whole switches are already rigged with surveillance software. That's not just like something you go and connect, you know, the two wires and listen. No, it's built into the phone switches as a function. And somebody, it wasn't found out. Somebody managed to. This is Ericsson's service. Someone managed to hack into Ericsson's server to disable the telnet of all the things, to disable the authentication of the telnet or through the telnet, and to wiretap 100 Greek ministers, prime minister, whole cabinet, a lot of people, and to send those calls to some undisclosed prepaid numbers using the conference call function of those same services. And that's the problem when you start building in wiretap functionality in circuits and switches and whatever. Somebody is going to find out about that. You cannot always be sure, okay, but only we are going to use the wiretapping capability. This is the prime example. This is the great example. Somebody is going to hack into it. Somebody is going to find out how to use it and to use it for non-legal purposes. I'm not saying, I understand that law enforcement has legitimate needs to follow criminals, crooks, but that also have to be technically protected and within legal framework. This is the problem which shows that when you start putting now the FBI in the 90s, as also now FBI is always calling, we are going dark, we cannot see, people are using encryption, we are not going to be able to find, like, you know, child abductors and whatever, and they argue against encryption. All these programs that I'm talking today about encryption and privacy. This is a great picture. This summons the entire cryptography. We always think, okay, just use strong crypto and you're free to go, you can do whatever you want. nobody's going to be able to crack your codes. In reality, that can happen. That really sums it up. Somebody can infect your computer with a Trojan virus, infect your phone with a Trojan. For the whole summer, there was news about hacking team company which got hacked and got their 400 gigabyte dump of information released. That is software which countries buy, mostly countries, national state security agencies buy to infect the target's phones. That is the software which no antivirus can find, and that is the software which has capabilities to record audio, record screenshots, record browsing history, access all the files. There's even a function in hacking team software called child porn function. And when hackers, because there's a source code for it, when hackers opened it, it says you can implant a file on a suspect's computer. So if you cannot arrest him without, maybe he's doing really nothing serious, really nothing wrong, really nothing, you can push a button, send a child porn file, AVI, childporn.avi file on his phone, on his laptop, on his whatever. And when he goes to the next time customs inspection, whatever, when people find childporn.avi on his file, you're directly going to jail, because in America that is punishable just by looking at it. So you really don't even have to be involved in making it, producing it, whatever. Just the fact that you're watching it is punishable by serious crimes. So this is the problem. This is the major problem. We can think, okay, we're doing everything great, but something can like this happen. So it's not for the people who are doing bad stuff, who are not under the investigations already. If you're under investigations already, these crypto programs are probably not going to save you much. If authorities know something, if you're targeted, they can always infect your phone and steal your crypto keys. This is really important stuff. Privacy is something that is very important for me. And there is a huge amount of YouTube videos where you can see somebody's singing, dancing, doing whatever in their privacy. And they think nobody is watching them. They're like singing, they don't know how to sing, but they like to sing, you know, it sounds horrible. And they are singing, and somebody walks into the room and they're like, oh no, their shame is too great to show. And that is why I say this is something I'm willing to do only if no one else is watching. That is one of the definitions of privacy. And that's the whole reason I'm giving this talk. The whole reason I'm giving this talk is that the reason is that when we're at a state where we can be monitored, where we can be watched, our behavior changes dramatically. That is my problem with all those issues, NSA. And it's not just NSA. We just have slides from the NSA. The Russians are doing that the same. Chinese are doing that the same. All state agencies are doing the same. I don't know what our state agency is doing the same. I don't know. We don't have any leakers from Serbia, so we really cannot know. This stuff is inherently secret, you know, so you cannot know what it's doing. Every single psychological analysis will tell you that when people are being watched, their behavior changes. This is what I'm giving that talk. When you know that you're being watched, and you're being watched on the Google, on the Facebook, on the email, all the emails until recently were just a level of security of the emails, unless encrypted by PGP or something, is just like a postcard. Just like a postcard. Anyone who is sitting on the network between your server and the recipient server can just sniff those off the wire without any problems. And these state agencies are sitting on the backbone of the internet. This is not something like we are hacking here, we are sniffing local traffic. No, they're sniffing traffic for whole countries, And I say United States and their partners, and they have a lot of partners in this. They're using this great tool we call the internet to use them to indiscriminate mass surveillance. And there's a problem because you can have one kind of targeting, the citizens, the targets, the terrorists, the kidnappers, the whatever, the crooks, and target them, just them and their contacts. And another thing is to target the whole countries, the whole planet actually, the whole planet, if you remember the previous slide. And as Snowden said, these programs were never about terrorism. All the officials, every single official, especially since 2001, since September 11 attacks, every single government official said, we need to catch terrorists, we cannot find terrorists, we need to have more power, we need to have more programs, we need to have more sniffing power. And it was never about that. It was about economic spying, because they can spy officials of the companies that United States companies have negotiations and diplomatic, all the embassies, all the ministries about power. Yeah. People say, okay, well, I'm not important, I have nothing to hide. And that is really troubling. The first thing I can say to them, okay, I have this special email address, and I'll give it to you, and you can send, and I'm not using it for anything other else, just for you to send me passwords for your Facebook, for your Gmail, for your SkyDrive, for your whatever service you're using, and let me just sniff around, look what you're doing. I'm not a government agent. I'm not in a court. I'm not going to put you in a jail. I'm going to do any harm to you. And no single one of people wants to give up their passwords. Why? Because they value their privacy. But they say, I have nothing to hide. Those are things like canceling each other. And what they can actually say, they make themselves so unthreatening, so uninteresting to the people that may be monitoring self, that I don't have fear from whatever it is doing. Being a terrorist sometimes was very strict definition. Now you have, with each passing year, you have wider and wider interpretations of when is somebody a terrorist. It's not just like blowing buildings, blowing planes, whatever. They can now get all sorts of definitions, hidden definitions, secret definitions, that they can target somebody, prosecute somebody, take somebody to jail, whatever. The Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, like he's not allowing anybody to talk about privacy. But 2 or 3 years ago, he bought a house for himself in, I don't know where, San Francisco, whatever. And not only he bought his house, but he bought 4 houses around that and paid a total of $30 million because he doesn't like for people to watch what he's doing, you know. And he's asking from all of you to tag your friends, to broadcast your information all the time, to be able to massively data mine all your likes, all your friends, all your comments, all your links, everything you post, to be able to sell that as a advertising profile, just for that. That's just advertising profile. But they're collecting enormous amounts of data about everybody. Even the UN special reporter said the encryption is great and it should be protected and it should be used. Unlike some US government officials which are saying like, no, we can't do that. British Prime Minister David Cameron, as soon as he went into power this year, he has always been saying in the news, we can't have encryption in UK that we can't see. So he wants to ban all these strong encryption that government cannot break. They're not breaking, they're just bypassing encryption. This is the program in the beginning of the 2000. In the year 2000, it lasted by the year, I mean, maybe 2003. They actually called it like that. And they wanted to centralize access of all the databases from the police, FBI, CIA, NSA, DMV, health databases. I mean, I cannot even remember whatever. They wanted to create all of that. And in 2003, we were like, great. We were like ecstatic. They actually killed that law, killed that program. And we were like, great, that's actually excellent, you know. Just to be confirmed now by Snowden's files that they just renamed those programs and never ever told the public about them. They're just continuing that same program. This is the logo for that program. All-seeing eye, watching the whole planet. They just renamed it first from the total information awareness to terrorist information awareness, and they later renamed it to whatever they want. Now every police station in the United States has what they call fusion centers. Like whenever somebody is stopped at a traffic stop, gone through the red, whatever petty police problems, they're all feeding that into their fusion database. And that goes to bases like these. So this is for the US, but you see, the whole planet. They don't care if you're here or in US. You're a target for them. These are some of the links that I've been using to find software which is trustworthy, which is thought to have no backdoors, which has good crypto, and by good crypto I mean first you can verify the keys. So you cannot be fooled that you're talking about with somebody else. I'll show you in the examples. You have to be open source because we had so many from Snowden files. We had so many examples of companies subverting their encryption programs. RSA, which is like the main company which makes the biggest RSA encryption, you know, that's like the main encryption that drives the whole world. They have been subverting their program at the behest of NSA. So you really cannot trust them. Microsoft has been doing from the 90s stuff. They actually had in the Windows NT, which was Windows NT before Windows 2000, they actually had a file on the registry key that was called NSA key. And then they later removed when some security researchers found, what do you have, like, and crypto key, sorry. In the registry key, they had a reference to the crypto key that's called NSA key. And when people ask them, what's about that? Oh, no, you don't have to worry about that. We'll just flush it with a new service pack. And they publish new service pack, and that thing went. I'm not saying disappeared, it maybe just went to another place where you can find it. EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, they're being around from the 90s. One of the founding members was from cypherpunks, right? And they are committed to protecting people's privacy. They have numerous lawsuits against, they have done numerous lawsuits against the US government on the behalf of people that have been targeted unjustly or whatever. So when you scroll with this, you can see these bullets. No? Is it encrypted in transit? Almost everything encrypts in transit, but that's not enough. Is it encrypted so the provider can read it? Where do they keep private keys? You know, that's very important. Can you verify the contact identities? That's also important, though, so you're not being spoofed by somebody else who's managed to crack somebody's password. Perfect forward secrecy. Are past communications secure if your keys are now, if somebody steals your phone, steals your laptop, whatever, he has your keys. He cannot decrypt previous communications that have been made and recorded. Is it open source? Can you review it? Is it properly documented? That is something that's also important. And has there been any recent code audit? Like, has somebody from the community, has some professional code reviewers, have they looking from security problems in the problem? And when you start scrolling that, look for chat secure. Everything. You have that's for Android and for iOS. You have all the green stuff. CryptoCat runs on the browser. You cannot look Facebook chat. No? FaceTime, Apple's, which we say it's great, but it's not that great. Google Hangouts, they changed in this year. They officially turned off end-to-end encryption. So until this year, you could use XMPP chat, OTR chat with Google's accounts, and now they are disabling. They are moving to another infrastructure, and that is not secure by these standards no more. iMessage also. Jitsi is open source chat and voice app. Off-the-record messaging, Pigeon for Windows. Signal, red phone, we're doing that today. Silent phone is essentially the same thing as the red phone. Silent phone is a commercial offering from Phil Zimmerman, the creator of PGP. He was so fed with these revelations, with these everything, so he managed to find his old buddies, and they created Silent Circle company, which is a commercial company. You have to pay for their services, but they're making the black phone, the encrypted phone, which you can control pretty much everything on it. And the silent phone and the silent text are the two services which you can download on your phone, Android phone, right? And pay some yearly service fee. I don't know what is it today. Silent text also there. Look at the Skype. People think Skype is great. Well, think again. Telegram, I haven't seen that. I haven't tried that still. But we'll be focusing on TechSecure, which is also from Open Whisper Systems. Viber, look at Viber. All people in Serbia use Viber. WhatsApp also. I think that will be maybe something that will be changed for Viber. For WhatsApp, sorry. For WhatsApp, they have been using Moxie Marlin Spikes encryption like TechSecure. like OTR, but the question remains, I don't know if it's going to be open source, it's not going to be open source, and what happens with the keys. I don't know if they are using the private keys. What happens with the private keys? And the Hue, of course, was never for much of anything. Kako je sad ovo menja? Ovo je control, izvini. So we have a lot of resources. Crypto Party, there was also, there were last night presentation, Freedom Press, from people that were their main technologist was involved in the first, helping the Snowden leak first cache of files, make a site for distributing files. SSD, EFF, self-surveillance defense. That's a great site. If you have time, look at it. For every kind of device that you can own, it has open source softwares which can help with your privacy, whether it's browsing, chatting, voice call, encrypting files, encrypting hard drives, PGP for email. They have detailed descriptions and tutorials how can you use it. That's a great site. They recently upgraded it to something a little more modern. The first program we'll be talking is Mumble. So as you can see, it's encrypted chat. It's encrypted voice chat. It's something that was actually made for gaming users like Ventrilo for games, when you can have many people on one channel and they're playing some game, you know, and they don't need to chat. This is interesting program. It's not. This is the least secure of all those programs that I'm going to show you today, but it's still AES 255 6-bit AES encrypted. So that is something that hasn't been cracked today in any kind of way. This can be useful for when you're having a meeting, I don't know, in your company or your friends, and you don't want to text all the messages. You can just go to any server you want, create a channel, and voice chat for everybody. Everybody can speak at the same time. So, I don't know. The one thing, this program of all doesn't have what we call end-to-end encryption. So from my device to your device, it's not encrypted. It's encrypted from your device to the server. So that's a problem. What if you have to? What if you used a compromised server? What somebody has hacked your server? Well, I say that really isn't the case, because you can host your server at home with these things, Raspberry Pis. These things are really cheap. These draw like 3 watts of electricity running all day, little Linux server, and you can just install Mumble server, that's called Murmur. You can install your own server and be certain that nobody is abusing your keys, nobody is abusing your encryption at any way. You can install it in your home, like I did. You can install it in your company or whatever you like. Or you can use some of the thousands of free servers out in the internet. Lugans, people that organize this, are also hosting their server with Lugans, mumble.lugans.org. I'll show you later. So when you start the program, you have a list of favorite servers. I registered my test account on mumble.lugans. You don't have to register account. You just type in your username. So there's no passwords to remember. There's no anything. Just whatever you want to be called. all the encryption is being done by the certificates, TLS certificates. And later, the stream is being encrypted with AES. This is what looks like to be, they can be channels for whatever distro, for whatever topic that you like. And I joined my two devices. And you have at the bottom of the screen, push to talk. When you push it, you're talking, just like that walkie-talkie devices we use like kids, you know. Or you can set it to be voice activated. When you start talking, it automatically transmits. You can also use it for chats if you don't want to speak. I don't know why, but you can send small messages through that same channel, that you can choose. And when you go to the information, you see it's encrypted with 256-bit AES. So it's great in terms of encryption. Voice channel, 128 bits AES. Right? And this is the limited bandwidth, 72 kilobits. And the codec is Opus, so it's really like HD sound. Like when you put the headset on your phone, the sound is perfect. The sound is perfect. There's no crackling, there's no noise, there's no nothing. The Opus codec is great. And this is a screenshot from the iPhone version of it. And you can verify the fingerprint. So you can verify the fingerprint of the server which you're connecting you to, so you know you're not being man-in-the-middled by somebody's certificate, right? So you can own the hardware, own the server, and if you don't own the server, you can always check the fingerprint of the server to be able to verify your privacy. TextSecure, or Signal for iPhone, the programs that do the same thing, they're being produced by Open Whisper Systems, which is being run by Moxie, Marlinspike, hacker, who's done so many great things. So you can see people that are supporting them. Snowden, Laura Poitras, the filmmaker that introduced Snowden to the world. Bruce Schneier, I've been talking about him earlier. So you see what they write about that software. Either Signal, either TextSecure, it's same crypto, it's same thing, it's same, just TextSecure is for Android, Signal is for iPhone. So they describe what they use for encryption that is similar to the OTR, to the great OTR, off-the-record messaging protocol, and they use all the greatest encryption protocols. And here is some more detailed description of what they do. And that is really great. They provide that forward secrecy, as all these programs that we're talking about provide forward secrecy. That's really great. So even if somebody is recording your encrypted messages, they cannot decrypt it now, but maybe they could decrypt it later if they find your key. This is not the case. If you have forward secrecy, sometimes it's called perfect forward secrecy encryption, even if somebody steals your device, extracts your key from whatever means, they cannot decrypt previous communications. That is great. So maybe somebody gets interesting, but it's really great encryption software. And what is great about him, that almost all of it is being hidden from the user. And that is the great thing about program. Managing keys, copying, verifying keys, that's okay, that we people that we've been doing this for 15 years, we can understand and we can do it, and it's no problem. But for average folk, for average user, this is something like they don't even know what are keys. And these things hide them almost exclusively. You can check visually your key if you want. You have an option. You can do it, but you don't have to. The software does it for you. And that's the great thing about this software. You can recommend it to anybody you know, to your grandma, no, to everybody and your grandma. I'll show you. When you install it, you have to register your device with your phone number. So there's no password to remember, there's no username, there's no nothing. It's just your number, just like Viber, just like WhatsApp, just like what. That's why Viber and WhatsApp are really popular here, because you don't have to create an account. At least the users think you don't have to create an account. You just type in your phone number and it's done. And the system does it for you. But you've seen in the previous slides how Viber and WhatsApp are arranged and how is this ranked. You have a list of your users from your mobile phone. These are phones, just right, you know. There's no emails, no nothing. You have confirmation that it's sent encrypted, and this phone that I've been testing, it hasn't received it. I haven't activated it. Long story, but when you send it and the guy receives it, you have two check marks here. So you know that you sent it correctly, and you know that the guy received it. You can also use it to send snapshot camera, attachments of any kind. I mean, okay, that's a nice thing to have. And this is it. You have a button to say, verify your identity. And so you have hash of your key, hash of your contact's key. And you say, you take two devices, you look at them together, and they're the same. Nobody is messing with your traffic. Nobody is attacking you. Nobody is switching keys. Nobody is man-in-the-middling you. Or, as this is a mobile phone with camera, you have a barcode. You can create a QR code just by pressing here, and it creates a QR code which the other user can just use to scan. You don't have to, you see how many numbers are here. You would have to read all the numbers and to be totally sure if that nobody's messing with your keys. With QR code, it's much easier. Red phone or Signal. Signal for iPhone does both messages and voice calls. In the future, Android versions will be also merged in one app. They're for now like one for text messages, one for phone calls. Same thing, same encryption, same privacy, same everything. Also connected to your mobile phone, no passwords, no nothing, just calling. And my friend wasn't available when I was making this presentation. When he answers, verifying keys is really easy. You have here 2 words in English. 2 words appear, which are something like simplified hash of your crypto key. So you read yours and he reads his, and they should match. They should be even, like 2 keys, but not just hash like the whole key. And you just click one OK mark, you know. And so you verify that this is not being tampered, not being intercepted, this traffic. And these are the options in that program, you know. You can register your phone like this, and this is the options. This is one thing. You can use this to, super, you can use this for everything, like for your grandma. These are the options. Yeah. Enable Bluetooth, prompt for call update. That's all the options that program has now. That's why it's real, and it's privacy preserving. And okay, so we get to the final program, to Chat Secure. You have them both for iPhone, for Android. When you open it, you see the options, what it has. I only change that second slide to always require encryption. For compatibility reasons, they leave it to automatically attempt. So when it doesn't work, you still have, if encryption doesn't work, you can still chat with somebody. But I say, no, I don't want to chat without any encryption. Better that it doesn't work, then it sends text in clear text, you know. Operation is easy. You click new account, enter new username, your hosting site. You have maybe tens of something. I'm using DuckDuckGo's servers for my presentation, but you can really use any server for whatever you want. There's a huge list, just so you see. There's a providers, really a lot of providers, you know, and they're all ranked with grades. So you should only get, of course, those that have green AA in both cases. You can really choose any kind of, and you can see the year that they're being founded. So you see, like, this is like 2003. No, there are some really 1999. See, these are really old services. We've been using it for 15 years. I've been using it for 15 years, 10, 15. So you can choose really anything. You don't have to use DuckDuckGo's servers, but at any rate, you see username, server, password, register an account. And what's great about this program, you have this button, connect via Tor. If you have installed Orbot on your phone, it automatically uses Tor's proxy, and all your traffic is being routed by Tor. So also your provider, your internet provider, will not be able to know that you're even, the fact that you're even using Tor, OTR chat secure. The mere fact that you're using, they will never be able to see your traffic, of course, but even the fact that you're using chat secure will be hidden. When you register your new account, you say, okay, I'll add another account for my friend, send invite. He gets an question, do you want to add this account? Okay. And this is also verified fingerprint. This is, you take two devices. Is this the same? Is this the same? It's okay. Because this is mobile phone, you have scan QR code. So you don't have to read, although if you're lazy. And when you start to chat, this looks like this. Okay, we're sending. For some reason, the first ever message failed. It didn't go there. Okay, so it works, and also you have two check marks. It's sent, and it's received. When you can send also voice memo, picture, camera, attachment, whatever, through the same chat secure services. If you want to accept, yes, okay, you receive a picture, like whatever. And it stays in its program. It doesn't go to the gallery. It doesn't go automatically to the Android gallery to, no, it's secret. You have to save it. If you want to save it, you have to save it first. It has some issues in the iOS version. You can't use Tor. There's no button to connect through Tor. And due to some limitations posed by Apple's iOS, it goes after 10 minutes in the background and disconnects. That's the really problem. They have the plan to rename that app, to rebuild that app, to be able to, like, VoIP apps. VoIP apps don't have these problems, like Mumble, Plumble. These don't have those problems. And I don't know how they managed to, probably that's why they initially went to Signal for iPhone, because Signal is both VoIP app for voice and for chat. Probably that's why they did it. And that will be about it. No. If there are any questions, I can answer. Yeah. Aç mikrofon, da.
You, s you said that Chat Secure has end-to-end encryption, no?
OTR encryption.
Yes. Why then you need Tor?
If I thought that I would had some more time to explain it. These things, I wanted to make another part of the presentation, but sadly we don't have time. All these softwares don't hide the fact that you're using it. They hide your destination, they hide your contacts, they hide your contents of your communications, so that's totally private, that's totally secure, but they don't hide the fact that you're using it. There are loads and loads of commercial software that classifies traffic that internet providers use, that services use. They know that you're using some kind of XMPP chat, but they don't know who you're sending it to, they don't know what's the name of your contact, they just know the IP address of your server. No communications, no nothing. So if you want to be even more secure, you can use either VPN or Tor. So not many programs have Tor support in them, especially on a mobile phones when you cannot easily change proxies. That's actually being done. When you install Tor, it's a local proxy, so you have to use that. And this is one of the rare programs that allows you to use Tor to even hide the fact that you're using XMPP chat secure software. That's the other part of the that's the other part of the problem. You're not hiding your metadata when you're communicating, and sometimes who you're communicating with, or that is with IP, which IP address you're communicating with, depending on the protocol, depending on the software. Sometimes you're communicating directly to the server, so there's, okay, he's just communicating server, but sometimes when it's peer-to-peer communication, you communicate with the IP of your friend. So somebody who may be monitoring the traffic will find out that you're using that encrypted software to communicate with somebody, and for how long. So that's called metadata. And VPNs and the Tor enable you to hide also that fact. Yeah. Any more questions? Okay, thank you.